Okay, welcome. I hope you're all well. All right, let us begin. I was coming across something that might do this as a couple of days of practice here. This comes from Mindfulness from Beginners by Kabat Zinn. Sometimes when I read these books, it's very interesting to just see how various people obviously speak about mindfulness and the various language that's used around it. And sometimes, it's sort of like mindfulness for beginners. Where does the where does the beginner part come from? Because I feel like just mindfulness is sort of like the information in some of these books that say mindfulness for beginners are just, it's sort of like it's so incredibly real that don't need to differentiate beginners from experts from anything like that. It's sort of like we're all kind of in the practice, and it's like the truths are a truth regardless of where we are. And I feel like sometimes reminding ourselves of that can be really helpful. And so, the practice that we've done, which is quite common in mindfulness, is going from emotions to thoughts to sensations, or, whichever way you want to do it. But essentially, separating all those and in essence, seeing them as distinct, but they're just appearances in awareness. Right? And so although we distinguish them, they're just happenings in awareness in the moment, in our experience. And that's just it. So even though we do separate them, the last practice that we did is more of the essence of mindfulness, which is paying attention to all that arises, essentially, because that's what's happening in our daily practice. So, for instance, when you're quote unquote beginning off, it might be helpful to focus on something like your breath or a sensation or a thought or a word. And that helps us learn how to focus and concentrate the brain and learn how to, as people say, you're training your tools, you're training your instruments, you're tuning your instrument, whichever one you want to use. I'm really tuning my instrument to, well, what are we tuning our instrument to do? To be in the present moment. In reality, we are in the present moment. We're always in the present moment, just our attention is wandering and going either to the future or to the past, and it's not aware of the present moment. And so by doing that, we choose to focus on something like an anchor or a resource that is in the present moment. And as our mind wanders, as we recognize how quickly it is for our mind to wander, that we go, wow, I can't even focus on my breath for more than 2 seconds. And here I am trying to practice this practice. And so you recognize that the mind wanders, and that's the nature of the mind. And then as you kind of develop the practice, you start to recognize that you're able to focus the mind more clearly. You're able to pay attention longer. You're able to focus on something longer. And in doing that, it's almost as if the hyper focus on something, it's sort of like it goes from the microcosm to the macrocosm, where you're focusing on such a specific thing, that from that very directed focus, there's an opening into a larger sphere of awareness. And the last practice we did then was essentially, opening up to all the experiences that come. So, so I was just perusing this book. Again, it's from Mindfulness for Beginners by Kabat Zinn. Great book. Highly recommend it. Kabat Zinn is just he's incredible in all realms. If you haven't read any of his stuff or listened to any of his talks or anything like that, he's really great. The language he uses is outstanding. Highly recommend it. And the short chapter is called Inhabiting Awareness. Inhabiting awareness is the essence of practice. Inhabiting awareness is the essence of practice. What was this? What does that mean? What does that mean? Inhabiting awareness is the challenge of mindfulness is to be present for your experience as it is, rather than immediately jumping in to change it or try to force it to be different. And when I read books or highlight things, I like double underline things and triple underline things and have stars and arrows that point to like really, it's sort of like double underline, like I'm almost underlining so much I scratch out the words that I'm underlining, and then I'm like arrows are pointing from all different directions, stars are everywhere, and then after I'm done, I can't even read the writing because I was so excited by the importance of some of these things. And so if you kind of go flip through my books, you'll be like, oh, he thought that was important for whatever reason. And, and so I take things that resonate with me. I really take things that resonate with me to heart. Like I feel like these are giants in the field, right? These are giants in the field who have done way more practice than me and way more studies and have thought about this on realms beyond that which I can even imagine, for instance. And so, when there's something written like that resonates with me, I sort of take it as like, wow, that's really powerful. It's a really powerful statement, right? The challenge of mindfulness is to be present for your experience as it is, right? And so you see that theme kind of throughout many self-help books, throughout many self-care books, throughout many, different religions, different spiritual practices, right? As it is, rather than immediately jumping in to change it or try to force it to be different. And again, we've done this practice in different ways, in terms of whether it's just paying attention to your breath or just for one smidgen of a second, for 1 millisecond, accepting your state as it is without needing to change it or just taking that 1 millisecond and expanding it on. But we usually do try to force it to be different. We usually do. There's usually I wish, whether it's your health or, your pain in your back or knee or your blood pressure or your, the color of your hair or, the wrinkles on your skin or the type of food you eat or whatever it might be. It's sort of like, I wish my daughter just told me the other day, she's like, would you ever color your hair? And I'm like, no. She's like, oh. I'm like, why? She goes, you'd look younger. And I go, ah. I couldn't help laughing. I couldn't help laughing. And then I just said, that is not one of the things I'm interested in. That is not one of the things I'm interested in. And so she's like, okay, all right. But you look younger. She's I said, I'll just wear a hat when I'm around you so you won't have to see I'll just wear a beanie. Here you go. Oh, my daughter's entering the room. Put on the beanie. Put on the beanie. But we do, right? We try to change things. It's like whether you're getting the Botox injections or the vitamin C injections or, it's whatever it is. It's sort of like, all right. So whatever the quality of your experience is in a particular moment, what is most important is your awareness of it. Can you make room for awareness of what is unfolding, whether you like what is happening or not, whether it is pleasant or not? Can you rest in this awareness even for one breath or even for one in-breath? I say a millisecond, right? One breath sounds really long when you're doing like a whole breath, right? And so he even clarifies as, maybe just the in-breath, right? As opposed to, I say a millisecond, like 1/1000th of a second. I mean, can you rest in this awareness even for one breath or even for one in-breath before reacting to try to escape or make things different? Inhabiting awareness is the essence of mindfulness practice, no matter what you are experiencing, whether it arises in formal meditation or in going about your life. Life itself becomes the meditation practice as we learn to take up residency in awareness. Life itself, right, becomes the meditation practice as we learn to take up residency in awareness. Okay, so that's another part that's triple underlined. It's got 14 different colors of highlights on it. It's got, arrows that are pointing from all angles and stars around it, and smiley faces and hearts and, emojis. So to me, it's sort of like, whoa, yeah, totally. That's it, right? Life becomes the meditation practice as we learn to take up residency. Right? I love that word, residency, right? Where are you residing, right? Well, I'm at 709 State Street. No, where are you? Right? Well, I jump from my emotions to my sensations to my thoughts. I have my 10 favorite hangout thoughts. My first one is worry about the future. My second one is, be annoyed at the past. My third one is, ruminate about the conversation I had with my significant other yesterday. And those are my residencies. Those are my common residencies, let's say. Or you can take residency in awareness. Okay. You choose. you choose. I mean, this essential dimension of our being that is already ours, but with which we are so unfamiliar that we frequently cannot put it to use at the very times in our lives when we need it most. Right? We're not even aware that there's an awareness that we could reside or be resident in, because this is not even something that's familiar to us, and we can't even use this resource because we don't even know what it is. But if we practice mindfulness and we practice this inhabiting awareness, or even a smidgen of it, an ability, right, just in that millisecond to be okay with what is, as it is, without changing it, right, then we might be able to actually reside in that space, in our being, when we do get stressed or when we have to go for that MRI or that exam or whatever it is, right? But if through bringing an ongoing intentionality and gentle discipline to both formal and informal practice, mindfulness were to function, increasing as our default setting, so to speak, our baseline condition that we come back to instinctively when we lose our emotional balance momentarily, then it could serve as a profoundly healthy and reliable resource for us in challenging times. Okay, now I'm going to read it entirely without pausing to make my comments about my arrows and stars. Whatever the quality of your experience in a particular moment, what is most important is your awareness of it. Can you make room for awareness of what is unfolding, whether you like what is happening or not, whether it is pleasant or not? Can you rest in this awareness, even for one breath or even one in-breath, before reacting to try to escape to make things different? Inhabiting awareness is the essence of mindfulness practice, no matter what you are experiencing, whether it arises in formal meditation or in going about your life. Life itself becomes the meditation practice as we learn to take up residency in awareness, this essential dimension of our being that is already ours, but with which we are so unfamiliar that we frequently cannot put it to use at the very times in our lives when we need it the most. But if, through bringing an ongoing intentionality and gentle discipline to both formal and informal practice, mindfulness were to function increasingly as our default setting, so to speak, our baseline condition that we come back to instinctively when we lose our emotional balance momentarily, then it could serve as a profoundly healthy and reliable resource for us in challenging times. Right. Beautiful. Okay. I love the bringing ongoing intentionality, right, to the practice, to both formal and informal, right? It's ongoing. It's bringing this on. It's constant. It's ongoing. You're bringing this ongoing practice and gentle. Gentle. When's the last time you did something gently? Get the bread from the refrigerator, will you? Gently. You don't have to open up the refrigerator like you're trying to destroy it, right? You don't have to grab the bread like you're trying to squish it to death. Gently. Right? Let's do things gently. Let's bring in a new discipline to our life. Gently. Right? Gently. From now on, I'm meditating 20 minutes a day, no questions asked. Right. All right. Likely of failure? Hi, hello. All right. So this ongoing intentionality and gentle discipline, right? Gentle. We do it gently. Gently. Formal and informal. We've talked about both formal and informal practice. Right. And mindfulness being this default setting. And can we actually make mindful state of resting in awareness our default setting? Wouldn't that be cool? Right? Hey, what's your goal? Oh, let me tell you, I want to make resting in awareness my default setting. Cool. What about your bank account? Resting in awareness. Okay. Right. That we come back to instinctively. That's what we're training ourselves to be our instincts. Okay. And when we lose our emotional balance, not if, right? When we lose our emotional balance, not because, I've been practicing mindfulness for 10 years that I never lose my emotional balance. Right? So it's not if I lose my emotional balance because I'm such a good meditator and I should be perfect and oh my goodness, I lost my emotional balance and that means it's not working, right? And I suck. No, when I lose my emotional balance, right? I can come back to this place. It can be a resource for all of us. Okay. So that's, again, that we're going to do a bit of a practice on this. And then at the end of the book, he has various practices. And just to let you know, okay, so what I think about this is he has 5 specific practices. And so if you see, right, even his, I just kind of like to see thought patterns, right? What would be the thought pattern on this, right? There's 5 practices. This is called beginner, mindfulness for beginner, right? So he has 5 5 thought practices. Okay. The first practice, right? The first practice is mindfulness of eating, right? We've talked a little bit about that in terms of he guides you through a mindfulness of eating exercise, where there's various forms of doing this, but the one that has been popularized is, taking 5 or 10 minutes to eat one raisin in 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. Then mindfulness of breathing. So you're paying attention to the breath. Okay. Then there's mindfulness of the body as a whole. There's mindfulness of body as a whole, which is almost like a body scan in essence, feeling the sensations in the body and doing a body scan, bringing awareness to different places. And then there's mindfulness of sounds, thoughts, and emotions. Mindfulness of sounds, thoughts, and emotions, right? Even from a beginner practice, maybe separating those into mindfulness of sound, mindfulness of thought, and mindfulness of emotions could actually be done. He does mindfulness of sounds, thoughts, and emotions, sounds being a sensation, right? So even within sensations, you can separate the mindfulness practice into sensations of touch, sensations of hearing, sensations of smelling, sensations of tasting, sensations of seeing, for instance. And then mindfulness as pure awareness. Right? So you kind of get to mindfulness of sounds, thoughts, and emotions, and then mindfulness of pure awareness. Okay. Any states. In this last meditation, we practice taking up residence in awareness itself without choosing any object or objects to focus on in particular, which is similar to what we did last practice. This is the very same awareness that we have been bringing to various aspects of our experience in the other formal mindfulness practices, right? Same awareness. This practice is sometimes referred to objectless attention, choiceless awareness, or open presence, right? Objectless attention. Why? Because we're not paying attention to any one particular object. We're allowing what is simply arising in awareness to be there as it is. There is no agenda at all in terms of what we pay attention to. None. Zero. Of course, there's no agenda even when we're paying attention to objects. It's simply being the knowing through the various sense doors, of which there are more than 5, as we saw earlier. Also, we've also seen awareness can hold anything. It's like space. It doesn't take up room by itself. So it can hold thoughts or feelings or sensations in the body, and these can be either painful or not painful. They can be anxiety producing or not. From the perspective of the awareness, it doesn't matter. It is very much like a mother holding her child. No matter what the child has done, what the child has experienced, or what the child fears, the mother still holds the child with unconditional love and acceptance. Even if the child is in pain, the mother holds the child with total kindness. This in itself is comforting and healing. In a sense, this practice embodies the present moment and the infinite, because the silence itself is infinite and the stillness, enduring, and imperturbable awareness doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to make anything happen. It just sees. It just knows. And in the seeing, as we have mentioned, in the knowing of any arisings through any of the senses, in the touching of any and all thoughts in awareness, these arisings in the mind, whether they are thoughts or emotions or sensations, self-liberate, dissolve on their own. They don't lead to anything else. They don't capture us and pull us away if we don't feed them. Right? So are we feeding them? How do we feed them? Well, we pay more attention to them. So we simply, although it is not so easy, and with compassion, although not always easy, hold whatever arises and recognize and know whatever arises in awareness as best we can. You don't need to do anything. There's no doing. Just resting in choiceless awareness, in open presence, moment by moment by moment, and reestablishing awareness if you get lost and carried away, which of course is bound to happen over and over and over and over again. Very kind. Be kind to yourself. It's going to happen. Nothing wrong with that. Indeed, there is beauty in the activity of the mind if we remember that it does not have to define us, that we do not have to be caught, that the contents of the mind and heart are not personal. This practice of choiceless awareness, like all the others, is an occasion to let yourself be invited into the receptive, empty, spacious, knowing quality of awareness. It is an invitation to take up residency in awareness and dwell here in this timeless moment we call now, that gives another dimension of being in which to live, in which to be touched by the world, and through which to touch the world and others in their joy and in their pain, in which to come to our senses, all of them, and wake up to the actuality of who we are. Nothing we need to do. Simply be. Rest in awareness. So there's nothing in particular that we're paying attention to. Although things will rise. Right? Moments in our awareness, they will rise. Thoughts will come. Sensations will come. Emotions will come. Right? We're bound. We are bound to have our mind wander. Nothing wrong. And when that happens, recognize it. Be kind, right? With compassion, that gentleness, that kindness. Be compassionate and come back to awareness. Okay? All right. So we'll go into our practice. Okay, so let's find a comfortable posture. A posture you feel relaxed yet alert. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. If not, having a soft downward gaze as we're gazing off on the horizon. Taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. And with each inhale, allowing your body to rest into the present moment. And with each exhale, allowing yourself to release any tension or stress you may feel in your body, even if it's just the intention. And then breathing at whatever pace works best for you. And bringing your attention to your anchor or resource, that place that you feel you can direct your attention to, that allows you to be safer. This might be the felt sense of your breath. It might be counting your breath. It might be a word, phrase, or mantra, prayer. It may be the felt sense of your feet on the floor or your thighs on your chair. It may be an emotion of love, joy, or gratitude. Whatever it is, a place you can direct your attention to. It may even be residing in pure awareness. And spending a little time with your anchor, with your resource. And simply noticing the nature of your mind. And as your mind wanders, coming back to your anchor or resource. And from here, can we rest our attention? Resting our attention to pure awareness. Allowing ourselves to reside in awareness. That for this practice, there's no particular direction our attention needs to go. That it can rest like it's falling asleep, enlightening, awakening our awareness, residing. That we notice or witness or are aware of everything that arises in the moment. But we just don't put too much energy to it. There's nothing that goes out and attaches onto it. Simply noticing. And if your mind wanders, which inevitably it will, noticing that and resting your attention, residing in awareness as best you can. Seeing if you can accept this moment just as it is, even if just for a breath, or an in-breath, or a millisecond. With kindness and compassion residing in awareness. residing in awareness as best you can. Each moment, moment by moment, resting our attention as our mind wanders. And slowly, kindly, bringing your attention back to your resource, your anchor, taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. Opening your eyes if your eyes were closed. Stretching or moving if you need to stretch. Reorienting yourself to your room and surroundings. And just taking a moment to reflect on your practice today.